Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, that event will not be taking place today. I do feel sorry for you. I hope to return home to my native England and my family, but you have missed the daredevil event of the season, and you have my humblest apologies. But there are many other festive activities to take place here in Onondaga Lake. I know I was glad to be here. Just a short steamer ride from the beautiful city of Syracuse by the lake. And so many lakeside amusements. Oh, I believe I counted 7 or 8 resorts, and as all are equipped with the modern up-to-date entertainments as one could ask, for this lake has been drawing people for years indeed. In fact, even the native Onondagas visited these shores for years. I got here via a trolley ride from downtown Syracuse to the Iron Pier Resort. It's made out of wood, not iron, you bloody Americans. But it's an extraordinary place. Fine food, wonderful orchestras to dance to, a little lagoon of its own, and plenty of games of skill for anybody who has a few pence. I do mean cents. I forget where I am sometimes. I brought all my paraphernalia here to Pleasant Beach via the Delaware-Lackawanna Western Railroad, as I wanted to, well, explore the lake, so to speak. And, of course, there are stops on its route along the western shore, as does the trolley have the same. And then there's Van Vleck Road for carriages, although I understand that can get a bit treacherous at times, particularly after a good rain. I was engaged to perform here as one of the many attractions at Pleasant Beach Resort. Now, the 2 blokes that run this fine resort, Mr. Barnum and Mr. Aldridge, are wizened gentlemen indeed. Now, Pleasant Beach is reputed to have the best beaches for swimming. There are also restaurants, a bowling alley, a dancing pavilion, rowboats, and new acts constantly, such as myself. I can't imagine there's any need for the family on holiday that can't be met right here at Pleasant Beach. Unless, of course, you try Lakeview Point, the grandfather of the resorts, started in 1876. They offer romantic moonlight excursions, even on Sunday. Of course, that can get a bit rowdy at times. I understand bartender has suffered to have his finger bitten off. Oi! Then there's Manhattan Beach and Rockaway Beach, famed for its chowder parties, whitefish, frog's legs, and the delicacy, samphire, an asparagus-like plant what grows by the shore. And in the winter, there's skating, ice fishing, and the new sport of ice boat racing are offered. Then you could try Maple Bay, billed as the king of the summer resorts. Now, they have tracks for that newfound rage of bicycle racing, and children's rides and a menagerie. Or at the northern end of the lake, at the outlet, there is Maurer's Long Branch Resort Amusement Park. They have a merry-go-round, roller coaster, rides, games. Oh, it's the... Well, I imagine that the proprietors here at Pleasant Beach would not want me touting the competition, eh? I wonder if any of you have ever taken part in ballooning feats. I understand that Professor Carlos Coe of Rome, New York, is Central New York's premier aeronaut, in spite of the fact that he has but one arm. Now, that happened when he crash-landed his balloon in an oak tree in Rome's swamp. He survived, but the next day he went to retrieve his balloon, fell out of the tree, and broke his blooming arm. That required amputation. Ghastly business. And another time, in his native Rome, New York, during one of your American Independence Day celebrations, his balloon broke loose from its moorings, was blown against a smokestack, and caught fire. It sailed over the city, dropping burning canvas on the buildings, including the city courthouse. And finally, what was left of this spherical inferno came to rest on 2 homes. I would imagine old Professor Coe was about as popular in his native Rome, New York, as Nero was in his ancient Rome. But he did finally manage a successful balloon launch from Syracuse's Hanover Square in the 1860s in front of an excited crowd. Fortunately, there were no other such catastrophes. Now, the parachute can also be traced to ancient China. There's a story about an ancient Chinese emperor who locked his son in a burning tower to do away with him, for one reason or another. But the young man escaped by holding on to a number of those Chinese wide straw hats and jumping from the tower. I don't think I'd try that stunt today, holding on to an Englishman's bloody top hat. Then the famous inventor Leonardo da Vinci made diagrams of a covered framework that would gently lower a man to earth. And another inventor, Fausto Veranzio, at age 65 and deathly ill, tested his design, supposedly, by jumping from a tower. Now, some people say that's bunk, but I say that, given the state he was in, don't think it mattered very much whether he survived or not. Well, about 116 years later, the Montgolfier brothers practiced lowering their dog to the ground from a rooftop. I would think that would strain relations with man's best friend, wouldn't you? Now, the parachute I'm using can be traced to the 1700s. Back then, they used linen and a wooden frame. Now, that was heavy and cumbersome. Later, early aeronauts used silk, which was strong and very light. In 1797, Andrew Guerin became the first man to parachute using a chute without a wooden frame. He also understood that an opening at the top of the chute would keep it from oscillating, and he had a rope that went from the balloon to the chute and him. He would jump from the balloon, the rope would break, causing the chute to open up, one would hope. Shortly after, his wife Genevieve became the first woman to perform a parachute jump. My chute is modeled very much after theirs. Now, the proprietors of Pleasant Beach were hoping to draw throngs to witness my descent. And of course, they were proved correct. Upwards of 7,000 were there. Now, a death-defying feat such as this requires much preparation. I start my day with some light calisthenics to get the blood flowing, the muscles stretched to their best. It is important that I be prepared both mentally and physically for any life-threatening possibility I may face. Then I took a light supper and a bracing cup of strong tea. I just can't function without a good cup of tea, yeah? I cannot understand Americans' fascination with coffee. I prefer not to drink anything I can't see through. Then I had to tend to the folding of my parachute. It is absolutely vital that the chute be folded in such a proper way that it will unfold and open at maximum speeds. Even though I have prepared and done this jump many times before, I cannot relax my attentions for a moment. I owe it to my audience, a successful jump, and to my family back in England that I represent them proudly. I've been asked, how does it feel to be sailing down at the earth at such speeds that any small miscalculation could result in my doom? Well, we Brits face danger with the courage and fortitude of our forefathers, and our threat of our mortality we face with the unerring strength and moral commitment that any man should do himself before man and God. It is about honor and duty. Now, that having been said, there are times when jumping scares the bejesus out of me. More than once, I have prayed to God that I be allowed to survive just one more jump with my chin up and my head held high. Striking the water from 1,500 feet up can be very taxing on the body. And of course, I positioned some boats by the shore in case of an emergency. Now, back to yesterday's jump. I climbed out of the basket and held onto the trapeze bar below. I released myself in my chute. Something was amiss. I instantly moved to correct the malfunction, but a trickle of cold sweat rolled down my back. My stomach clenched in fear. My mind raced. The surface of the water rushed up at me. I motioned for the boats to come in. I could not understand it. After all the checking twice, thrice, twice again. How could it all go wrong? Were the silks bundled correctly? Were the lines played in place? Then why wouldn't it open? The The faces of my family flashed before me, and then a hard hit into the water, a tangled mess of silk and rope, and me fighting, struggling for air, precious, unattainable air. Finally, I relaxed to my fate. Water can be very unforgiving. And so, I offer you my humblest apologies, but there will be no jump today. No more will I soar from the clouds to the gracious sounds of your applause. I do hope I was an Englishman till the end. God save the Queen! He certainly did not save me. Well, it was my time. And I hope you enjoyed your visit to Liverpool, New York. Cheerio.
The man known as Professor D. Ives became entangled in his ropes. He plunged into the lake and died. It is not known if he was killed on the impact of the lake or if he drowned under the ropes and silks of his parachute. The body was recovered in 60 feet of water the next day. It was free from any lines and unharmed, except for his grappling hooks.
Oh, 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 oh.